Alright everybody, Jessica here, and this is going to be a demonstration of Alla Prima and open form painting. So open form meaning that I am just starting with more of these shapes and moving around light and shadow shapes. It does end up being a little tightened up towards the end just by virtue of my personality, and I can't help it. But I'm not starting with any drawing or any outlines, and certainly not starting with any pencil. All right, so I just put the paint on the canvas and start moving it around till I find the shapes here. All right. But I'm also going to be demonstrating the Alla Prima technique, and what we're starting with here is a shot of my palette and the colors that I use for this piece. So starting left to right, I have some Payne's Gray, I have some raw umber, and then I have two types of earth red here. I couldn't decide which one I wanted. The one on the left is Indian red, which when I read the ingredients, it's more of a Mars violet, so it's kind of a purple earthish red. And then next to that, I have, what is that one? It's some sort of earth red. I forget which one precisely that I grabbed. Right. Next to that, we have okay, so this color, which looks very much like yellow ochre, and I thought was yellow ochre, I realized was actually raw sienna. But you can see it's a very yellow ochre-ish. The one to the right of that is Naples Yellow Light, which you could get if you don't have Naples Yellow Light. You could get just by mixing, a little bit of yellow ochre, maybe a little bit of bright yellow with some white to get that light. And then, of course, I have titanium white. All right, so I want to mention right off the bat that I have no reference image here. And the reason is just because I taped up my palette paper over on the side and I didn't have room on my easel for a reference image, and it would just be faster if I wasn't worried about capturing the likeness of someone, and I'm just kind of painting this out of my imagination. That way it's more fun for me as well. All right. So here I have my raw umber, and as you can see, there are no pencil marks on my page. I know this is deeply uncomfortable for some people. This is oil paint, by the way. But yeah, so I am mapping out some shadow shapes. I usually start with the light and shadow shapes and not with the outline of where the eyes are, the outline of the nose, the outline of the mouth, right? So I have some raw umber. I'm brushing down with my big fluffier brush to get kind of a medium tone, and I'm just kind of trying to capture where the light and shadow shapes are on the face, and you can see me pushing the paint around, sometimes wiping it off, and just kind of watching this as it takes shape and seeing, pausing and observing my painting and trying to see if there's anything that is not right or that I want to move. All right. One other thing I really want to point out right now is that I'm keeping the paint very, very thin. All right. So I am not going to leave big dark blobs of paint on here, because what I want to do is paint right over this wet oil paint. Yes, that's right, wet oil paint, going to be painted over with color in the same sitting. That's what Alla Prima means. I mean, I guess technically Alla Prima is Italian and it means at first attempt. So basically, going to be painting this entire painting in one sitting. All right, so you can see that I have kind of wiped out with the rag. I have medium light and medium values, and I'm kind of emphasizing some parts of the values here with some darker paint before I kind of blend it and brush it off. Again, so open form, I repeat, I am not going in with some outlines and trying to block myself in with parameters and outlines. I'm pushing and pulling these light and dark shapes around with some paint, right? And that's one of the wonderful things about working with oil paint, is that you can kind of just, push it around and sculpt it almost as if it was clay or something. So you can just kind of wipe away with the rag. You can push the shapes till it's darker. All right, so what I'm trying to get in this phase is just a little bit of guidelines for me when I start putting the color on top. Why am I doing this? Because it is much easier to change my mind at this point. When I get all kinds of colors and thick impasto, so impasto is the word for thick layers of paint, when I start getting that on here, it's going to be a little more difficult to kind of figure out the shape of the form. All right, so I'm just doing a quick kind of oil sketch under here by, trying to find the shape of the face, trying to find the light and dark values, and that's it. All right. As I continue, I'm trying to keep in mind which surfaces are facing up, which surfaces are facing down and trying to separate the planes of the face to give myself a little bit more to go on when I get into color, right? So from here, so I do want to mention that I have this video at 200% speed right now. I'm going to kick it up a notch to about, or 800% speed as I get through the rest of this until I'm ready for color. Alright folks, so I have finished up this sketch and now I am starting to mix up some color here. So what you see here is me mixing up just some of this yellow ochre-ish color, which is actually raw sienna, mixing it with a little bit of white and testing it on here. So what you see here is my compositional sketch done in raw umber, plus my first little bit of skin color that I'm putting on there. So you can see I am kind of laying it on there somewhat thickly, right? And I'm trying to get some sort of normal light mass tone that's not yet the highlight. And this is going to be some sort of mixture of yellow ochre plus burnt sienna plus white, all right? All right, so I'm just kind of starting to lay this on here all over the painting. So you can see here I have a little bit of white in there, right? So blocking in a lot of these light mass shapes, right? Again, I'm not really grabbing a lot of medium on here yet, because I'm just trying to get this nice and thick on there. So you can see I'm getting a little bit of that light yellow on there, a little bit of white, a little bit more of that raw sienna, and just kind of trying to differentiate between the surfaces of the face that are facing upwards and the surfaces that are not. So I'm adding more white, more yellow to the upwards facing surfaces there. So right under the nostrils there is one of my favorite spots to look for bright areas of the face, right? I am somewhat, painting this in a patchy kind of process where I'm putting little patches of different colored paint next to each other, right? You can kind of go back and forth between that and between doing more of a solid color and building the highlights on top, right? There I'm grabbing some of my Mars Violet and mixing it in with the skin color in order to try to get that like dark shadow colors in the eye bag area. So for my other class, I used colors that most people would have. That Mars Violet color you can make with raw umber and black and alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue. All right, so it's basically alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue, and then black and raw umber, a little bit of white so it doesn't get super dark, and you can get a color similar to that Mars Violet color. All right, I'm starting by painting in the eyes just black at this point, because that's how I start. I'm going to build the eyes on top of it. All right, but just starting with some black. All right, now I'm getting that shadow color on the downwards facing surface of the nose. So that's some raw umber, some of that, purplish color, a little red, all right, and I'm getting in the lips as well, all right. So we're gonna go here in just a moment to kind of a close-up still photo of this painting, how it looks now. All right, there I'm getting some of my warmer, like red, right? So not trying to get the purpley color, but getting that warmer red color into the cheek area. All right, and also notice how I keep mixing different colors into the skin color. I'm not just brushing that red on there, but I'm mixing the red into the skin color, right? So here's a kind of shot of what it looks like now. You can see the different kind of patchy surfaces, how they look. Here's another different shot of it. Alright, so you can see I'm just going about shaping the eyes some more with some black in there. I'm trying to keep them pretty dark because they're in the shadows. Alright. Alright, so I'm just, working along here, getting different variations of, some purpley reds for the lips. Notice I'm keeping upper lip dark, lower lip light. And now I'm just, making some basic variations of what I call the Band-Aid color, right? Which is, basically earth red, earth yellow, and white. Some areas have more light, some areas have less light. And I'm starting to get into a little bit of the shadow. You could see me grabbing the raw umber, getting more of that purple color that I put in the eye sockets, making the cast shadow from the nose going straight down under the lip. The shadows under the little depressor muscles that live under the lip in green here, those are some of my favorite muscles. Anyhow, here's what we're looking at now as I get more of the color in place. So again, you can see just different variations of combinations of all of these different colors, your earth yellow, earth red, white. Alright, I have sped it up a little again here, and you can see I'm getting some nice raw umber and brushing it in the sides of the cheeks, those downward facing planes, the sides of the cheeks, to make it a little more kind of dark, right? I'm getting some kind of light colors, putting them on top of the forehead here, and kind of going back in with some white and some very light yellow to kind of, again, hit those upward facing surfaces with some highlights, right? The upper facing part of the chin, upper facing planes of the cheekbone, and then just kind of reasserting the shape of the face. I kind of, as I was painting this in from my imagination, kind of made this person lifting their chin up, tipping their head back a little, so the perspective's a little, tipped back. So I'm trying to, capture that. Alright, at this point I'm starting to shape the eyes a little, so I start by painting them basically all black, and then going in with some lighter, very dark gray to get the sclera, right, to kind of separate out where the eyes are looking, right. I'm getting a little bit of this nice darker shadow color under the eye bags, right, while I have this red on my brush, popping some into the lips. Right. I also want to reemphasize just how thick the paint is happening at this point. I'm putting it on really thick, right? So here is a close-up of what it is looking like at the moment. I have a bunch of just kind of thick little patches of very similar kind of variations of my mixture of these colors. You can see I painted in the nostrils and the lip line with some kind of dark purplish, brown, blackish color. I always try to keep it warm in there. Alright, we are back. I'm trying to get the iPad to focus on it. There we go. Alright, so moving into the lips with some nice kind of that hot red color that I have. This one's facing down, right? I'm getting the shadow kind of, painting the red on that lower lip right in there. I'm trying to just kind of soften the edge between the skin above the upper lip and the upper lip itself. It kind of rolls under there softly, so I always try to do a little softening there, right? Getting that Naples yellow light and popping some highlights right above the nodes and right above that upper lip. Again, Naples yellow light. If you just get some yellow ochre and some white, maybe a little bit of like prismatic bright yellow, maybe not. Alright, and I'm using this kind of, darker skin color it's lighter than those shadow masses, right? So I'm getting the normal skin color to now shape the eyes, all right? People get a little bit anxious about, doing eyes without being able to draw them, but, you can just push and pull dark and light around, all day long. Just use a little bit of paint, and push them around, shape them to how you want them to look, right? Right here I'm trying to soften between the upper and the side planes of the side of the face, so you saw me kind of blending it into the shadows there on the side, all right? Just kind of trying to blend a little bit to make it a little bit less patchy, all right? And, trying to separate that lower lip from the upper lip there. All right, and just really taking my little brush, shaping that upper lip, right? Sometimes a little bit of, light falls under the nose onto that lip there, right? Highlights around the lips. All right, a little more shaping of the eyes there. And I'm going to warn you all, something terrible happened. I thought I was recording for the next 20 minutes when I, in fact, was not recording. So the most important part, shaping the eyes, it kind of looks like this now. So what I ended up doing is getting a nice dark gray, painting around those irises, and leaving the irises black. And then painting a little half moon of silvery blue, so that's, Payne's gray and white, on the bottom half of the iris, a little crescent to give it almost a blue shape. So even though the whites of the eyes look white, they're in fact extremely dark gray. And then, as you can see, I took a little black and painted some hair around the face, right? So that just changed the whole look of this. And I'm sorry that you all missed it. I was very upset when I saw that I was not recording. All right, so I'm just kind of going in, highlighting above the brow bone, right? So really pulling that out. And then it looks a little dark red in there, so I'm getting some kind of medium dark colors and just bringing that up inside of the eye socket so it's not as dark as I had it, right? Yeah, so when you're doing something like this, now I've said this before, but there are, so many different colors on the face, right? And when you start out and, okay, wait, there's a little bit of highlight there. That's the only spot I'm putting white, right there on the eyes, right? But anyhow, you start out with some color on the face. It's going to look weird because it has no context. As you push forward, get some of these other colors on there, it's going to look less and less weird as you go. All right, so before hair and after hair on this piece looks like two completely different paintings, right? So I just, all I did was paint in basically some Payne's gray and raw umber there, with the hair, and it suddenly, I think the skin color makes a lot more sense than it did before I painted it in there. All right, so this painting is just about being wrapped up at this point. I didn't bother really painting the neck because I just didn't have time to get to that. But, oh yeah, eyebrows here. This also, so the eyebrows, I kind of paint the skin right over, I paint the skin. I don't leave a hole where the eyebrows are going to go. I like to have the skin and then put eyebrows on top, right? So I'm getting, more of a raw umber-ish. The hair has more black-ish. I'm just putting a few little overlapping hair pieces there, right? And then, painting in a little ear definition, all right? But yeah, trying to get a little bit, pushing that ear way back there, deep in the hair area, and, cutting this in, right? So I started, to recap, I started very loose, open, one might say, open-formed, not using outlines or anything, not trying to box myself in, just starting with these loose, kind of blurry shapes of warm, cool, light and dark, and then just kind of, you know, getting a little bit more detail, a little bit more tight as I continue on there. Alright, so here on out, I'm just kind of playing with some hair highlights, which I'm not totally happy with. But that's the thing. I often hear people use the term that they're afraid. They're afraid to mess it up or anything like that. But, with paint, you can always paint over paint with more paint, So don't be afraid to just kind of go in here, use some nice thick paint, everybody, and have some fun with this.